You know, I'm getting dizzy, and I'm getting that yo-yo feeling from this series. I don't know why I'm still reading it. I really don't. It's too much. If you haven't read her, you need to go read her. She is awesome. And Miss Moaning over there. But anyways, uh welcome to the Louise book series. I'm Christina Carrias-Tina. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy stuff going on here. And we're playing with the Kindle again. So when you play with the Kindle, you need this doohickey. Not a clue what it's called. I just call it a doohickey. Works great in bed. With pillows, with blankets. It'll still stay sturdy, and you don't have to hold it. And then you can just put it on the table, and you can just read it on the table. See? It just reads right there. So anyways, we are on book 2, Murder Past, Love Present. And I've really seriously got the yo-yo feeling. Alright, so picture this house. Picture this big fancy smancy house. I don't care if it's not big. Just picture a living room, hypothetically. Very large living room in a mansion, just hypothetically, that has 2 rooms. And with Casey, I think it was the watch or the portrait or something. Frank, it's also a door situation. We find out about him later on. But Natasha, she has a living room with 2 doors. You go in this door by the front of the house, which is a newer door, has been added last 100 years, whatever. 50 years. You go through the front door, or the door nearest the front of the house. It's the room. You go through the room in the rear of the house. The original door to the house. You're in 1810-ish. So, and it's that easy. It's that easy to go back and forth. It's literally that easy to go back and forth. So, Natasha is forever changing clothes. Go through the door, come back to the door, go through the door, come out the door, go through the door, go out the door. And as long as Matthew has something of hers, a handkerchief or something, he could go back and forth too. So the 2 of them are going back and forth. So she's going and she's having that idyllic situation where if you could go back in the past, like, hey, for genealogical purposes, which I think I'm going to do soon, if you could go back for genealogical purposes, go to your ancestors and knock on the door and sit and have tea and go, look, take a pencil, because you know they haven't seen pens and stuff like that. And, hey, question them about I need help with this. Can you answer these genealogical questions? And then go back at home. And sit in your air conditioning, your Tylenol, your hospitals, your medical, all your modern stuff. But then go back and visit them and get to know them. And maybe sneakily, because you don't want them getting scared and all that kind of stuff. And you don't want exposing them to modern technology. I don't know, snap a few pictures under the table situation. But if it was that easy to go back and forth, we wouldn't need the flux capacitor either. Alright, so. And, I should have printed out the second page. I didn't print out the second page. My co-host is here. My co-host, who's been driving me crazy all day. Oh, 101 uses for a cat. It's no good no more. She left. Who will be there for you when she wants to be there for you. That's different. That's the difference between a cat and a dog. A dog will be there anytime you want. A cat, on the other hand, will be there when they want to be there. Is the truth. That's the difference. So anyways, I should have printed out the second page, I didn't. But we have Natasha, whose nickname is Tasha, and she's our star lady, and she is the owner of Roland's property and of the Clock House, her new home. And like I said, it's the new home with the 2 doors. And then she has Victoria, or Vic Williams, who is a local builder, and she's a really good friend. And they've also got Frank Posby, Tasha's solicitor, who, by the way, is also playing this time travel game thingy. And he's met his counterpart. He actually has a counterpart in the past. Tasha doesn't. But this guy does. His ancestor doesn't. So he is impersonating his ancestor because he looks enough like him. So his ancestor can spend days on end with his family in the country. And like, hey, look, I'm gonna be in town for these days, and I will do the work you don't want to do. And then you come into town on these days, and I'll go back home. We do this kind of negotiating situation. But he doesn't confess all this to Natasha until he accidentally hit his thumb with a hammer or something, and it turned black. And then Natasha notices that the guy in 1810 also has a black thumb. So she confronts him, he confesses, and they use his traveling thing as help to investigate. And then, of course, we have Matthew, her love interest. And we have Jack Driscoll, who is our food blogger and historian. He's a new tenant of Natasha's in downstairs, and he cooks a few meals, and Matthew actually joins him and Frank, who by then confesses who he is. And we have Toby. He makes a few brief appearances. He needs a few brains. He's being too carefree as a bachelor. He needs to fess up because he's going to be the new heir because his brother has lost his bonkers, and that happened in the last book. So we have all this stuff going on. So anyway, Natasha is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we change our clothes, go back, come back, change our clothes, go back, change our clothes, change the clothes. I was getting dizzy with all the change clothes. I really was. And the goings and the comings and with two, some of them were really, really short. Some of them were only for an hour or so. And it was like, okay. I have always wanted a time series where the person can go back and forth, that they can choose to go into their time or the past. But this is ridiculous. I've wished for certain things. Karen Marie Moaning book 3 has the best ending, or at least I thought it was the best ending until this one. So she can go spend her days with him, and then he can go home with her at night and use the toilet and the shower and the amenities and all that kind of stuff, and then they can go back to his time and socialize and stuff. It's just too much. Okay, I got a little bit of a problem. Half the video recorded and half the video didn't record. So I don't exactly remember what I said on the second half. So I'm gonna just try and do it. I lost my rhythm. I lost it major big time. But the Murder Past Love Present book. So Natasha is having I like the fact that the relationship takes a backseat to the mystery, that the mystery is front and center, that the mystery is present. They may have a kiss or two, they may fall into bed, and then that's it. It's totally G-rated in the bedroom activity situation there. And then it's the next day. And so Tobias, Matthew works for this Earl, and Charles was supposed to be the heir, and Charles has some issues. And I think he's got smallpox or something like that right now. So he's dying. So Tobias has got to step in. So they've been trying to, that all happened in the first book. So they're trying to take care of Tobias now. And Matthew is handling the estate matters. He's like the estate manager. And they've also made friends John has, is it John? I think it's John. Don't quote me on that. Uh, yeah, Jonathan. He's the doctor, and he has made friends with Belinda, and Belinda has a grandmother who gets murdered in this story, and then questions come up about Belinda's paternity. And it's proven that she's definitely 100% a family member because she looks like so many of her ancestors. They actually go to this house and look. So, and unlike with Cassie and unlike in the other series, I don't see too many Bow Street runners. I don't see too many people investigating the situation. We have the inquest. The inquest is ruled a murder, but you don't see any other investigation. You don't see any outside people come into this. It's just them investigating. And so we have the question of Belinda's paternity, so we have to investigate that. And then we have the investigation of who murdered the grandmother. So we have those two investigations, and then the little bit of love affair between Matthew and Natasha takes back seat. Then there's also Jack Driscoll, he does some cooking for them. He is going to be Natasha's new basement tenant, and he's going to be a television chef or some sort like that. So he's cooking meals for them. Then Frank Posby, the solicitor. I said all this much better in the first video, but I didn't record it, so I don't know. Frank Posby also has his own secrets, and apparently he's been time traveling. And apparently he's got a room too that he goes through. But he, unlike Natasha, he has met his counterpart, his ancestor. And his ancestor is not too, he's not too workable. He's not lazy, but he wants to spend more time with his family. So he's worked out this deal with Frank. You work so many days, you cover these cases, and then I will spend time with my family in the country, and then I will come back and continue this work, and you go back to the present and do your work in the present, and then they're doing this in small spurts. But Natasha it's making a person dizzy. She's going back and forth, and it's little short spurts, unlike that. And we have not yet encountered Cassie in this book. We don't encounter till the very, very last page of the book. Because Cassie was the whole other series, and with her and Luke, she was a constable, she was an investigator, that was her job. So she would help solve murders with Luke, in the past. But apparently, since Natasha sees Luke in the past, and Matthew knows him, so they're aware that Luke is in the past, but he's also in the present because they've seen him in the present too. So that they know they're not the only ones going back and forth. So they got to solve Natasha's paternity. I mean, not Natasha's, but Belinda's paternity. Who her real mother was, her real parents, and who murdered the grandmother. And then someone else gets murdered, and apparently they knew the secret too. So there's some other stuff going on there too. Trying to think. I am so upset with myself that I have missed recording the second half of that video. It really sucks. So I'm glad that that the romance relationship doesn't take front and center. I like that it takes a back seat. I like that the mystery is up front. I like that we've got to solve not only who murdered the grandmother and the other people, but who Belinda's real parents are. And how it resolves itself is really interesting and really nice, the way she ends it. Because Belinda's got to deal with some relatives that are just... But I think my biggest problem with the series is the yo-yo-ness. There was one I had stated the other day that I liked the fact that Matthew had, when he had his own POV, he was given a chapter. In this one, the POV did change in the middle of the chapter, and I really don't like that. I like when they have their own individual chapter. Even if someone gave me a lip the other day about my saying that I like when another person has their own POV in a single chapter. But somebody mentioned sometimes that chapter, like with Patterson, is like just a paragraph, but it's its own. So you know that this paragraph, this chapter is by this person, even if it's only a page long. That's separate. But some authors will, this paragraph is his and this paragraph is hers. I don't like that too much, but that happened. I think it only happened once or twice in this book. So, and then Natasha's got to deal with modern day problems. And a lot of Natasha's head and her emotions and her mental involvement is in the past. She spends a great deal of time trying to solve the murder mystery and Belinda's parental ministry. And Matthew gets a little frustrated with her. And I get a little frustrated too. Because Matthew says to her, well, why don't you just hit the computer and find out what happened? Find out the truth. And, or like when somebody was murdered in the first book. And Natasha's like, I'm not... Matthew got mad at her because she knew this person was going to get murdered. And she didn't try and stop it. And she said, well, she didn't want to disrupt the timeline. She didn't want to change the future in any way, shape, or form. So it took Matthew a couple of days to get over that. I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of, there are some things, maybe small things you could change, but, like, if you could go back and, stop the Titanic, or use the boats to save extra people and save extra lives, would those people have given birth to criminals or robbers, or would they be sick, or would they have mental issues, or you don't know. You don't know how you would change history like that, because that's a big bowl of people. Or if you could go back and try and solve the Civil War in advance, or try and rescue Jewish people in Germany. Hey, look, you really need to get out. Because that was just, if so, I mean, but you might be able to change small events without hurting the future timeline. But big, massive events like that, you might have trouble with the future timeline. But I like the fact, like I said, that Natasha, mentally, she spends too much time in 1800. She's got a business to run in the future, and it's like a distraction. You get the feeling she would rather be in the past. She'd rather be in 1800. Because sometimes her business comes across as an inconvenience to her from the future. Although if she can just get Matthew to come to her side of town, but then he has to worry about familiar obligations in 1800. So we don't know how that's going to go. We'll have to check out book 3 and see how that goes. But there's a lot of good stuff going on in the present too. That Vic is like, Natasha, haven't you heard blah blah blah? And Natasha's like, no. She's in this bubble. Natasha's in this mental bubble of 1800 and dealing with all this stuff in the 1800s. She's not spending too much time in the present in her brain. So we'll have to see what happens in the next book. So that was book 2. And if you could please check out If Then Fridays and Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Friday. and JD Rob's Eve Dallas character spoilerizations on Saturday, and Sunday's unboxing, and Flashback Mondays, and of course my daily book reviews. Have a good one.